There's a person you know who can solve almost anything. A broken system at work, a problem no one else can crack, a conversation they can read 3 layers deep while everyone else only hears the words on the surface. But put that same person in front of the one thing that actually matters, love, and something strange happens. The mind that solves everything suddenly can't solve this. It stalls. It overthinks. It reaches for a formula that isn't there. Most people assume intelligence makes everything easier, that the smarter you are, the better you'd naturally be at relationships. But decades of research point to something almost no one expects. For a lot of brilliant people, it works the exact opposite way. By the end of this video, you'll understand exactly why the sharpest minds so often struggle the most with love and why that struggle isn't a flaw in them. It's the price of seeing the world too clearly. This person isn't rare. You've met them. Maybe, if you're honest, you are them. They're the one who rewrites the text 3 times before they send it, who notices the micro-expression you didn't know you made, who can predict how an argument will end before it's even begun and quietly dreads every step of getting there. Psychologists have studied this gap for a long time, and there's a strange finding at the center of it. Intelligence and emotional satisfaction don't rise together the way we assume they should. In many people, they actually pull apart. A mind built for analysis is not automatically a mind built for intimacy. The two run on completely different fuel. We're going to go through 7 reasons the smartest people find love the hardest. Some will surprise you. 1 or 2 might explain someone you've loved or the way you've always felt and never quite had the words for. Let's start with the one almost no one sees coming. For a highly intelligent person, the problem was never that they feel too little. It's that they perceive too much. Where most people hear a simple, "I'm fine," the sharp mind hears the pause before it, the flatness in the tone, the small thing that isn't being said. Researchers call this pattern recognition the brain's ability to catch signals other people filter out entirely. In intelligent minds, it runs constantly, in the background, even when they desperately wish it would stop. So when they love someone, and every glance carries information, and every silence has a shape, connection stops feeling simple. It becomes a flood of data they can't switch off. That isn't overreacting. That's a mind that was built to notice, doing exactly what it was built to do, just pointed at the one thing that can't be figured out. But seeing too much is only the surface. What the intelligent mind does with all of that information, that's where the real trouble begins. Here's the trap. A brilliant mind has learned one lesson above all others. Every problem has a solution, if you're just smart enough to find it. So it approaches love the very same way. Analyze the conflict, optimize the response, find the logical fix, and apply it. Daniel Goleman, the psychologist who popularized the idea of emotional intelligence, spent his career showing that raw IQ and emotional skill are 2 separate systems in the brain, and being gifted at one says almost nothing about the other. Love doesn't want to be solved, it wants to be felt. And the moment you turn a feeling into an equation, you've already stepped outside of it. For the person who's been rewarded their whole life for having the answer, this is quietly agonizing. Because in love, the smartest move is often to stop being smart, to drop the analysis and simply be present. And no one ever taught them how to do that. Now, here's where it gets more complicated, because this next one looks like arrogance from the outside, and it's anything but. An intelligent mind can always imagine better. Better conversations, better understanding, a better version of nearly everything it touches. That's a gift in most of life. But turned toward relationships, it becomes a quiet filter that almost no one can pass through. The psychologist Barry Schwartz called this the difference between maximizers and satisficers. A satisficer finds something good and feels genuinely content with it. A maximizer, always aware that a better option might exist somewhere, struggles to ever feel settled. Highly intelligent people are very often natural maximizers, and in love, that becomes a low, constant hum underneath everything. Is this really it? Could there be more? From the outside, it looks like they're too picky, too cold, too impossible to please. But underneath, it's something far more painful than that. A person who can vividly picture a depth of connection they've almost never actually found in real life. And that gap between what they imagine and what they show on the surface, it leads straight into the thing that people around them get most wrong. The intelligent mind often runs hot underneath and cool on top. Inside, there's a storm of analysis and feeling and second guessing. Outside, there's a calm, measured, unreadable face. To the people who love them, that stillness reads as distance, as indifference, as not caring at all. But psychologists who study emotional regulation keep finding the opposite is true. The people who control their expression the most are frequently the ones feeling it the most intensely. The restraint isn't the absence of emotion, it's a dam holding back a flood. So the partner walks away thinking they don't feel anything for me, when the truth is closer to the reverse. They feel so much that they learned a long time ago to keep the surface perfectly still because some part of them is afraid that if they let go, it would all come pouring out at once. If you're the kind of person who thinks this deeply about how people love who's still here, following the thread instead of scrolling past that already tells me something about you. It would mean a lot if you hit subscribe. We make videos like this every single week. The real psychology underneath how people think, feel, and connect explained in a way that actually makes sense. That's the whole promise of this channel. Now, the part almost no one talks about. There's a specific kind of loneliness that comes with a fast mind. It isn't the loneliness of being alone. It's the loneliness of being with someone and still feeling unmet, of reaching a certain depth in a conversation and slowly realizing the other person simply can't follow you down there. A study out of the London School of Economics found something genuinely striking. For most people, spending more time with friends reliably raises life satisfaction. But for the most intelligent people in the data, it often did the opposite. The more they socialized, the less satisfied they reported feeling. Researchers tied it to a mind that craves meaning far more than contact and quietly starves on small talk and surface connection. That's the hidden cost. It isn't that no one loves them. It's that so few people can meet them all the way down. And a brilliant person can be surrounded by genuine warmth and still feel in the deepest room of themselves completely alone. You can see it at the dinner party where they go quiet halfway through. At the gathering, they leave early, not because they didn't care, but because the conversation never went anywhere they could actually live. Over time, that unmet feeling teaches a dangerous lesson, that it's safer to expect less, to reach less, to stop hoping anyone will follow them all the way down. And that is how some of the deepest people slowly become the most guarded. But to understand why that room exists at all, you have to go back to where it was first built. Almost every intelligent adult was once the smart kid, and that single label shapes a person far more than they ever realize. They learned early that their mind was the thing that made them special. It got the praise, it got the attention, it got the approval. But somewhere in there, a quieter lesson took hold underneath it. I am valued for what I can do, not simply for who I am. The psychologist Alice Miller wrote about exactly this in her book, The Drama of the Gifted Child, how children praised mainly for their gifts can grow into adults who perform for love. Instead of trusting, they'll simply be given it. So they become brilliant at achieving and quietly terrified of being seen without the achievements. In love, that's the hardest possible place to stand because real intimacy asks you to put the accomplishments down and let someone love the ordinary, unimpressive human parts of you. And that's the one thing they were never actually sure was allowed. Which brings us to the last one, and honestly, it changes everything the others set up. Here's what all of this has been building toward. The same mind that makes love so hard is the one that makes it extraordinary the moment it's finally willing to be seen. Brené Brown, after years of researching human connection, found that vulnerability isn't weakness at all. It's the birthplace of intimacy, the doorway everything real has to pass through. And for the intelligent person, vulnerability is the one act that was never rewarded, never practiced, and never quite felt safe. But when they finally choose it, when the person who sees absolutely everything lets themselves be seen in return, they don't love shallowly. They love with the full force of a mind that notices every detail, remembers everything you say, and comes to understand you more completely than anyone ever has before. The struggle was never that they couldn't love. It's that they love so deeply the risk feels enormous. And the day they decide that you are worth that risk is the day you find out what that mind can do when it finally stops protecting itself. So the next time you meet someone brilliant who seems just slightly out of reach in love, the one who overthinks, who holds back, who can read the entire room but can never quite relax inside it, you'll know what you're actually looking at. Not someone who feels too little. Someone who feels and sees so much that love became the hardest equation they were ever handed, the one problem all their intelligence could never shortcut. They aren't cold, they aren't broken. They're built for a depth that most people never reach in a lifetime, and waiting, often without even knowing it, for someone patient enough to meet them there. If that sounds like someone you love, or someone you quietly are, stay with it. It's worth it. And if you want to go deeper, I made a video on why the most intelligent people so often choose solitude. It picks up almost exactly where this one leaves off. It's right here, whenever you're ready.